You're listening to Note to Self. I'm your host, Leah Tindale, and I'm so excited about my next guest. All my guests so far have been really great, but this one is extra special. I am, of course, talking about the wonderful Abi Odat. Hello, Abigail.
Hello.
I feel weird calling you Abigail, actually. Can I call you Abby?
Absolutely.
That's good. Thank you so much. Now, people may not, they'll be like, who is this woman? Why are you so excited to chat to her? And the reason is because your career has taken you on a path that is so interesting, so different, I think, to a lot of us in the Western world. You worked in humanitarian aid organizations and as a result worked in places like Afghanistan, Jordan, and Lebanon. And so I was like, I have to talk to you because how on earth does a girl from New Zealand end up in somewhere like Afghanistan? Take us on the journey.
That's a great question. And I think like when we first met, which was a long time ago, it definitely wasn't where I thought I would be heading.
No.
The understatement of the year. But I moved to London over 10 years ago now to become an actress. Like that was the goal. And I left 4 years later to be an aid worker in Afghanistan. So somewhere along the point, I often joke that something went horribly wrong or horribly right. And I think it was definitely right. Now that I look back on it, I'd always been very interested in development work, and when I went back and forth on trying to do performing arts, which is how you and I met too long ago. And I'd gone back and forth between I really want to do performing arts and I am not good enough, and I am also really interested in international development and how on earth do you do both of those. So I just went back and forth between them quite a bit, and then acting won out, and I was ready to move to London to give it a go because there wasn't as much going on in New Zealand in that space, and so I moved here, and it didn't quite work out, funnily enough, and I just decided, all right, well then this is the time to give the other passion a go, and ended up working for an NGO here, and just really enjoying being around people that lived out their care for other people, and just really enjoyed experiencing different cultures as well. I was so fortunate to get to travel to some places and work with some incredible people on the ground, people from the country themselves who were themselves going through a really difficult time, and then trying to serve other people in their communities, and just decided this is really what I do want to be doing. And then an opportunity in Afghanistan came along, and I thought, why not?
Like, what is that like going from living in London to then, being dropped into a completely different culture where the language is different, the customs are different, and you're trying to do work to help? Were you well received? Did you struggle with kind of like how to fit in, how to find a community, or does where you work just become your community? I mean, there's so many elements that I want answers for in this.
Yeah, I mean, moving to Afghanistan, this was pre the Taliban takeover. It was back in 2018. So it was quite a different Afghanistan to the one today.
Okay.
And there are obviously sort of concerns around security and safety. And I was very fortunate to be working with an organization that really prioritized that, and took great precautions to really sort of ensure safety. But that did mean that a lot of freedom of movement was restricted for our own safety, but also the safety of those around us, to not draw attention to ourselves, and to put our Afghan colleagues, at increased risk. So it did mean that, yes, of course, the people that we were living with, we worked with them, we socialized with them, they sort of became our de facto family there. It was a very, very intense experience, and I don't think it will come as any surprise to people that I knew in London before that I was quite a social butterfly. And so going from having quite a busy and active social life to suddenly being sort of locked down in one location. I don't think I left the house that we were living in for like 3 weeks when I first got to Kabul, which was crazy. And then the first time I went was just to go to a supermarket. And so it was a very different way of life. But then I was really fortunate to be able to end up moving into the Central Highlands in Afghanistan, which was a bit safer. We were able to get out a lot more, go to the market, go hiking, go around to our colleagues' houses for dinner, and very much experience the sort of Afghan lifestyle that I'd heard a lot about before I went. Before I went, everyone who'd been to Afghanistan and said, "Oh, I just love it. I'd love to go back. I'd love to go back. I'd love to go back." And I was like, I don't get it. And when I left London, I was like, I'm only going for a year. Like, I'm going to get some field experience. I've been really passionate about Afghanistan for a long time. So I'm going to go. I'll be gone for 1 year and I'll be back. And left my stuff in my uncle's loft for a year, saying I'd be gone for a year.
Okay, great.
Shout out to him. Like, I have
Yes.
a lot in storage rent. um, but yeah, I mean, we were so incredibly fortunate. My Afghan colleagues that I got to work alongside. I mean, I think if you talk to anyone that's worked in the international development community and has been based in the field, I think the first people that they will hold up and try and shine a spotlight on are national colleagues, because actually they are the ones that are often putting themselves at risk to do the work that they do. And are often the ones that are out in the field. People say, "Oh, you went to Afghanistan." I'm like, yeah, I did. I spent a lot of it behind a computer. Like, that is the reality.
Yes.
A lot of aid work, the computer work doesn't stop. You just happen to be doing it from a different location. But they also just had so much grace for us, I think, in terms of, they're just little things that I hadn't thought about, like just how you wore your hair or how you interacted. I tried to do as much learning as I could in advance to make sure I was ready and, not offensive with any of the customs and that kind of thing. But inevitably, you don't know everything before you go.
No.
And you have to accept that sometimes you're going to make a fool of yourself. And naturally, as a quite clumsy person anyway, there was a lot of making a fool of myself. And they were so gracious and just helping guide me on that journey as well. So yeah, it's very, very fortunate in that sense.
It's so incredible. And I mean, you mentioned sort of almost there's lessons there immediately that you're learning from these people who are being wonderfully gracious to you. But was another one that's like, okay, that's a hard lesson and you really had to sort of adjust or change your mindset or anything? Like, what was the biggest thing that you wrestled with over that time?
There was a lot of lessons through that time. I was just one of the biggest things, and it's continually come up. It wasn't just specific to Afghanistan, and I think is perhaps a lesson that I've tried to carry on, or a note to self, as it were, that I've tried to stay on brand. That I've tried to carry on, sort of shaping my interactions with people moving forward, is that at the end of the day, we are all human, and there's more that unites us than divides us. And I realize that sounds a bit like cliche, but I just think it's so true. And the more that you experience cultures that are so vastly different from, like, I grew up in New Zealand, right? Like rural New Zealand. I often joke that I used to ride a sheep to school. I didn't. Like, we did actually have cars and internet. I've often been asked that.
Yeah, okay.
It sometimes works as well. That's a scary thing. People actually believe
That's
that I
great.
went to school, and I have to follow that up and say, no, we didn't actually. Like, we do have cars in
So
rural
good.
New Zealand. We do have cars, believe it or not. But my childhood was so vastly different and often quite sheltered compared to some of the environments that I found myself working in. And it would be very easy to other people or say, actually, we're so different. How do we meet in the middle? And I've got this one really vivid memory of Afghanistan where we were out. We called it the deep field, which meant that it wasn't just a field base. It was that extra step, and we'd had to catch a helicopter to get there, and then we'd had to drive through some very bumpy roads for 8 hours, get to this remote field base where the team there were away from their families for 6 weeks at a time, and they'd be out there sleeping, in the same room together, eating together, working together. Like, that was real, family. And we would go and visit to do sort of quality assurance type visits. And I was sitting there, we'd been out all day visiting some communities that we were doing some work in, and we'd come back, and I was sitting with our staff, and we had this base in the side of the mountain. The beautiful thing about Afghanistan, huge sweeping hills, just spectacular vistas, and we had this base that was tucked into the side of the hill, and so it was very, very secure, but it did have this amazing sort of ledge that you could look down into the valley from, and we used to sit there and drink our tea. And for anyone that's been to Afghanistan, they'll always know that the green tea is just amazing, and I miss it so much. I've never had anything like it since.
Right.
And we sat there at the end of the day, and I can remember I was chatting to my colleague, and we were just talking and sharing our stories of university university and trying to figure out how we would pick what we wanted to do at university. And then we were looking down and watching a father teach his daughter and his son how to ride a bike. And so we were cheering them on. And, it was just such a moment of, like, here I literally couldn't be further from where home is for me. Really, really couldn't be, in so many different ways. And there was just such a sense of like, but this is life happening, and there's so much that we have in common. And so I think that's something that I just continue to take through, is actually there is so much, there's so much that we have in common with people. And when divides seem too big, actually, it's just like dig a little bit deeper and sort of look for what it is that we do have in common, and try and see people through that lens, as opposed to the other.
Mm.
Becoming even more prevalent in our society at the moment.
I love that so much. It's so important, isn't it? Because you can easily pick up differences, and then you're nitpicking and you go down a path that's only destructive for
Yeah,
yourself
yeah,
and for
yeah,
them. But
yeah.
having that point of view is so much more, well, it's rewarding for you, it's rewarding for everyone, and then you're more positioned to work together. And I suppose having
Mm.
you come in and have that perspective would probably help the local communities that you're trying to help be more receptive, because they know that you're seeing them truly, I suppose.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something there in terms of being able to work together and build relationships. And when you're able to see, I was about to say see beyond the differences, but I think there's a celebration of differences.
Yes.
It's great, but then also be able to, I think often, I mean, particularly in our society at the moment, right? And I think we're seeing it even more. Not to get too political, but I think we are seeing polarization so much, and
Yeah.
that if you're different, like, we're going to stand, completely on the edge of that.
Yes.
And actually the ability to celebrate difference, but also focus on what unites us as well, and being able to, see that, I think is very countercultural at the moment. I think it's really important in whatever environment you find yourself. You don't have to be in Afghanistan to find that.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There's always something that you can connect with someone, you'll find it eventually. And I suppose you did find a way to see, the similarities very well in some sense, because you ended up
You're there, Leah.
yeah. You ended up meeting your husband while you were in the Middle East, which is very exciting, despite cultural differences, despite even a lockdown that all happened. Tell us about your great romance, because I love this.
So after my time in Afghanistan, I moved to Jordan and took on a role that had sort of oversight of communications across the Middle East for the organization that I was working with, and found myself in Jordan, which was chalk and cheese from Afghanistan in a lot of ways. And I should probably caveat, I do recognize there's been a lot that's happened in Afghanistan since I left, and there are a lot of troubles there. But at the time, again, it was, I mean, it still is very different to Jordan. And I ended up meeting my now husband in Jordan, but just before the lockdown. And we had, COVID came, and Jordan responded very strictly. I
Yeah.
think we actually had one of the most strictest lockdowns in the world. And that's from someone from New Zealand who was also locked out of her country for a really long time. But in
Yeah.
Jordan, we were under martial law, like, it was wild. And so I think
Wow.
Mo and I had been on like 5 dates by that point. And I was like, of course, like, I was about to say love of my life. I didn't know at that point he was my life.
You might have.
But I meet this lovely man, and then there's a global pandemic and we lock down, and I can't see him easily. But Jordan, they locked us down for 5 days. It was an indefinite lockdown. We couldn't leave the house at all, and they were arresting people that left the house. It was a truly, truly wild and quite unique time to be in Jordan. They locked down the airport for 6 months. We couldn't get in or out unless you wanted to pay thousands for an emergency evacuation flight. And we had just met, and I thought, oh, he's nice, but then we also couldn't drive for like 2 months. They didn't let us drive, and so he had to walk to our house. We walked around the neighborhood and we walked back.
Yeah.
That was it. It was an hour each way to get to me, and we did a lot of chatting in that time. And we often say, I think, had it not been for that situation that we were put in, we probably wouldn't be together now, because it really gave us the opportunity to have some quite deep conversations. And I mean, it's quite apparent from the outset. We're from very different worlds, different cultures, but we're able to make it work.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, your relationship is incredible because, I mean, relationships are already hard work. You already have to work on communication
Mhm.
and, set expectations. And it's a constant evolution of self and allowing that other person to show up however they need to in that time. And you have to go with them on that journey. But then you add in the cultural elements.
Yeah.
What's that been like for you? I mean, the question, have you found it easy? I kind of already know the answer to that. It's not going to be easy. But how have you navigated that space? And I suppose, have you had any tips for anyone who might be finding themselves, embarking on a romance with someone who is quite culturally different from themselves?
Oh, I'm sure there would be a lot of tips. I mean, it has been a journey. I mean, and I would say from the outset, I'm a big fan of it. I actually think it ends up adding such a uniqueness to the relationship. Like, I mean, for us in particular, we get the chance to celebrate. My husband's, Muslim, so we get to celebrate Muslim holidays, and we get to celebrate Christian holidays from me, and then we get to celebrate all the other ones as well. And it just brings such an interesting, and you just get all these different perspectives, and it just adds this interesting tapestry that you end up having. And I'm also one for always like celebrating, like I'm there for it as the, my little
Yeah.
extrovert heart. So I'm like, great, like the more holidays that we can celebrate, the better. But I mean, in terms of sort of practical, it is hard. I think there is no way to get around that. You're bringing together two very different perspectives. As I said, I grew up in rural New Zealand, and he grew up in Aleppo in Syria, in the middle of the city, and he was there during the war as well. And so we've had two very different. By the time that we had met in our 30s, we'd had two very, very different lives. And so bringing those together was challenging. I mean, it is still challenging, I think we'd say. And there's often things that pop up that we're like, oh, we've got quite different perspectives on that, and we hadn't thought about that. And I think that's perhaps a great learning point to take away, is that, do the work at the start. We talked about so much, often on our COVID walks
Yeah.
during lockdown, but continued to as well. And there was a lot that we really had to force conversations about, in a way, because I did, we both knew that our perspectives are likely to be quite different, or we'd never had to think about it from such a different perspective before.
Yeah.
And so there was a bit that we did have to think about, but yeah, inevitably things did continue to come up. And I mean, for myself, I've really had to just ensure that if I think, oh, that's a bit strange, or that's a bit odd, which happens quite a lot, and I'm sure also happens in marriages from the same culture as well, where you're like,
Yeah, true.
but perhaps happens a little bit more in ours. I myself would just have to be quite careful with my reactions, and just really being intentional about sort of remaining open and really actively trying to see the other perspective for that, and also the implications of that as well. But honestly, it's really, we've had to do a lot of hard work on it. There's no getting around that.
Just a blanket rule for relationships anyway, isn't it? It is going to be hard work,
Yeah.
and it's definitely worth it. But yeah, it's so rich and becomes so wonderful because, I don't know, maybe because you've got cultural differences, your eyes are a little bit more open and you're not being as ignorant. There's that sort of, not ethos or mentality of like, if you're meant to be soulmates, then it'll just work out. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. I don't know. Yeah. Do you come across those sorts of sentiments, or do you find now in this sort of latter stage of 30s, people are a little bit more realistic with their romantic relationships and understanding
Yeah.
of, yeah, okay.
Yeah. 100%, 100%. Yeah. And it's quite interesting as well. I mean, I was single through the majority of my 20s too, and then had also done had ended up just being like, okay, I'm just going to focus on my career. Like, I moved to these places, and the likelihood of funny now, the likelihood of meeting someone there is probably quite low. I mean, it does happen. There's a lot of, romances in the aid sector, but I was sort of going, okay, yeah, I'm just going to focus, because this is what I believe my calling is, and what am very passionate about. I'm going to follow that. But that's what I'm going to prioritize. And chatting to sort of friends who have also taken a similar journey, and sort of are still single or have met their partners sort of later on in their 30s. I think there is a bit more of a realism there often, because I think
Yeah.
there's been that little bit more life lived as well. And so I think, I think definitely to say to your question, absolutely.
Yes. It's the best time to meet and get married, I reckon. That would be my advice. If I ever should have children, I'm like, hold it off. Wait.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Wait till your 30s.
yeah.
If we move then from coming out of, living in the Middle East and then you're coming back to London now. What is then that transition going back the other way? Because you would be close to 10 years in your time in the Middle East. Is that right?
Six
Six. Okay.
years.
Making up numbers.
Yeah.
Just 10, 6. But still, 6 years is that's a significant amount of time to live in a lot of, in tight quarters with people, often high stress situations. And then obviously you throw in the COVID situation and, that's just another layer.
Mm.
Coming back the other way to more of a Western way of life, how has that transition been for you?
It's been really tough, I think, in all honesty.
Mm.
It's been a real challenge. Most recently, I was living in Lebanon, and I was there for a little under 3 years. And it was during that time that Mo and I got legally married. He moved to Lebanon, and Lebanon was quite different. I mean, Jordan and Lebanon, there's a lot more freedoms that you can enjoy. Life is very sort of open, and it's a lot safer than perhaps is made out often in the Western media. And we had a really wonderful life in Lebanon, and that's not to negate the challenges that have gone on there, and are going ongoing at the moment. But at the time that we were there, we had a really wonderful life. I was really passionate about the work that we're doing. I worked with the most incredible team. It's about 100 there, and so going into work, yes, it was stressful. Yes, we had a lot of challenges, but there were some very real and tangible results that you got to see immediately, because you were on the ground. Because every day the teams were coming back from the field, and we'd get updates, and we'd be able to go out and visit and see the work that was happening. And there was something about sort of being very much part of that community delivering this work, that I really enjoyed, and just sort of helped continue to feel that passion through some of the challenges as well. And as well as just being an absolutely wonderful team. So shout out to the Lebanon team. That was an amazing team, and just such brilliant colleagues who have become friends. And so moving back to London and going from having this inbuilt community to suddenly not was quite, well, has been and continues to be a real challenge. Don't know if it's obvious, I'm quite a people person. I really enjoy those connections with people, and sort of moving back to London. I'd done this before. I'd moved from well, Australia, but had moved over to London in my mid-20s, and I'd gone into a flat share with six of us. There were six girls from
Wow.
New Zealand and Australia, and they all had friendship groups who were all just, you just got pulled into this huge sort of group of friends. There was always people around, people doing things. So you had that community, and I really, really valued that. And then obviously in Afghanistan, same thing. You were living, working, eating, all of it was together, and then there was that inbuilt community as well in Jordan and Lebanon, and then we were also able to build our own a bit more as well. And so coming back to London in your mid-30s, married, so you're not going to meet people in a flat share situation, because we decided we didn't want to do that. We just wanted some time. But coming back into London now, it's been significantly different, and those connections have been incredibly sort of challenging to make. People are at different stages in life. People have got kids, and their priorities have obviously shifted, and people are busy. I think it's been a real challenge. I think everyone gets very caught up in what they're doing, and it's much harder to be like, hey, do you want to hang out, and I don't know, particularly in London, from your experience as well, people's calendars, they book up like months in advance.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
Wild. I know. I'm like, how on earth do you build relationships here? Because it's so hard to get any time in people's schedules.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing. And I mean, I think we both have that in common as well. When you are someone who is pursuing a career and is quite career focused, you're going to move for your work. That's,
Yeah.
in your case, you would happily do that. In my case, I've done that many times as well. And so I think it is something that's not always spoken about, because sometimes I think as a couple, people presume that also you'll be fine. But sometimes as a couple, I think you can almost be more lonely, because you're like, cool, I see that guy every day. I want variety. Who else is around?
100%. I totally agree with that. And Mo is, he needs less people around him.
Yeah.
He's quite happy doing his thing, whereas I'm quite different. And so that's been a real challenge just in coming back, because he'll be like, no, we're good. And I'm like, oh, no, more he's had to listen to me say, like, how are we going to meet more friends? How are we going to do this? Have to be really proactive about it too.
Yeah.
And whereas he'd be happy chilling. He's got a couple of friends. He's good. Like, he
That's all he
doesn't
needs.
So yeah, it's really interesting. But it has been a challenge. And I think I really underestimated the amount of change that had happened in me while I was away, and coming back, and I was like, yeah, like I am different. I've grown in ways. And so coming back into London, I really value, like I said, that connection with, like, engaging with people from very different walks of life. And you really have to go out looking for that. Like, I understand London, there's people from all different walks of life, but you're also in London and you can't talk to anyone on the tube, so like trying to
Yeah.
talk to people from those different walks of life, it's a real proactive step that you have to take. And you have to decide, yeah, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna put myself in situations where I will be able to meet people like that. And so that's been, yeah, it's hard and it's time consuming too. And so
Yeah.
yeah, I've just had to learn to have a bit of grace for myself in that, but also to make sure that those things that have really opened up in me while I was away, I continue to engage with coming back.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the community thing is so, so important. How do you feel like you're currently positioned with your community? Like, is there something that you're like, okay, I'm trying to actively work on this? Or, I mean, for me, I sort of self-sabotage all the time as well, because with the work that I think is similar, even though, I work in media, you work in international development, but there's a lot of giving of the self in the job that you do.
Mhm.
And so often at the end of the day, even though it's going to be invigorating, it still then requires more effort to message and get that community going, or connections or whatever. Are you finding that you're getting in your own way, or are you in like an absolute sweet spot of like community building at the moment?
No, I wish. No, like, I think you've hit the nail on the head there completely. Like, I think there is that sort of giving giving of yourself at work, and in a very different way now. So I'm still
Yeah.
within the international development sector, but I'm less removed from what's happening in the field. So it's a lot more doing that, by Zoom or whatever
Yeah.
online calls, and yeah, and then coming back, I'm like, oh. And I also don't know about you, but like I feel like in your mid-30s, you're like, okay, like now I need to start really thinking about my health and making sure
Yeah.
that I'm getting all my vitamins, eating well, getting to the gym. I mean,
Yeah.
just doing that alone is like a day, and then I've got
It's a
to like
lot.
talk to my husband, make sure that we're connecting, and then maybe I might have one passion project that I really want to do, then
Yeah.
that takes up time. I'm sort of still trying to get back into the Amdram scene here, so amateur dramatics, sorry, scene.
I was like, I think you should clarify that because I don't know what that is. Amdram.
Because why can't you be an aid worker and an actress at the same time?
Yeah,
Like,
of
why not?
course.
Yeah, we can do it all. But can you? I think is the bigger question. Can you
Well,
do it all?
maybe
It's a
that should be
lot.
my next question,
Yeah,
Abby.
I
What
don't
do
know.
you think about that? Do
Oh
you think you
gosh.
can do it all? I feel like you've opened a can of worms
Yeah,
that you
yeah,
need
I
to
know, and
answer.
I feel like I'm going to evoke the
Plead the fifth.
forgiveness everywhere. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think you can. I don't think you can do it all at the same time. Perhaps that's
Yeah.
my diplomatic answer to that. I don't think you can do it all at the same time. There has to be things that you're prioritizing,
Yeah.
and inevitably, if you're doing that, then other things have to take a step back. Would be my
Yeah.
that, because I think it's hard to fit everything in, and particularly as I'm getting older, I notice my energy is perhaps not as vibrant as in my
Say it ain't.
20s, and yeah. And I think things shift. Like, I am just as much happy on the couch hanging out with Mo as to parties. I mean, I like a bit of both. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah. Don't stop the invites coming, people.
Yeah,
She still wants to invite them.
but also that's really special as well. So yeah, I think it is. It's that. Yeah, trying to find that balance.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it?
It
Because
really is.
it's not that we've been sold a lie. I don't think that, but I think especially if you're someone who's very driven,
Mm,
then you're like, no, I will, and going on. I'm talking about this a lot in different episodes at the moment because it's just front of mind. But going on this like final iteration of life where I've literally maybe got a year left or two to decide if I want to have kids.
I,
And then it's like, okay, but if I do that, what am I opting out of? Am I missing out on, and it's like a fork in the road, and then you're like, well, why should it be a fork in the road? I should be able to just be the best mum and the best person in media.
100%.
So then I'm like, yeah, I think you're right. It's just, but I don't like that, Abby. I don't like it. So
No, I'm with you. Yeah, yeah. No, I'm with you. And a big part of us coming back to the UK was because we wanted to be in a place where we could legally live together, but we, yes, we want a family. And what does that look like? And that's not to say that we couldn't have it in the Middle East, but the hours that I was working and the lifestyle
Yeah.
that I was part of because of this, donor says jump, you jump, and there's a emergency response that needs to happen, so you're on it. Like it completely, everything else falls by the wayside, and I couldn't imagine trying to also give my all, like, as a mother, I hope one day, then, and being there. And again, that's not to say that people can't do it at all, and that I knew women that really were smashing it out, but I guess it just wasn't what I had in mind for where I wanted in those next steps. But it's really hard. It's really hard. And there are honestly days that we're just like, let's just go back. Like, I really, miss the work, and I miss living in the Middle East generally. I absolutely adored it. And so I'm very lucky that I've been able to bring back what I call the ultimate souvenir.
Yes.
He
True.
loves that. Yeah, he loves that reference.
That's so good.
But it does mean, of course, that we will be able to go back quite regularly, and we do. But it's hard. It's trying to prioritize, and choose which picks priorities is hard. Yeah, I get you. It's very much front of
Yeah.
mind.
I
Making
think,
decisions based on that.
yeah, exactly. And I want to, I'm almost running out of time with you, but I want to squeeze some more gold nuggets from you before I go. So you've got lots up
Very
your sleeve.
generously.
But I suppose, because obviously we just that with the beautiful segue of the wonderful, souvenir that you've taken from there, we'll link back to the Middle East, because I want to find out if there is something that you would love people to know about Afghanistan, about Lebanon, about Jordan, that someone who's lived in those regions, what's something that you would just love to impart to people as like a takeaway, if there is anything of that you wish we knew? I've got some big questions.
That's a big question. And I wouldn't deign to speak, I think, for anyone from the Middle East. I mean, again, I feel like it's kind of cliched, like, and I don't take away from the challenges that do exist, and the troubles and the challenges that do exist. But I mean, my biggest takeaway from living in the Middle East and in Central Asia and Afghanistan is very much, I think it just comes back to what I was saying before. Like, there is so much more that unites us, and I think the hospital. If I think about, Middle East, Afghanistan, hospitality is my biggest takeaway. Like, we think we know, like we know how to be good hosts. We know nothing, nothing.
That's
The
great.
hospitality and the heart behind it, and I mean, both, like when you're welcomed into people's homes, but more generally as well as a culture. There is so much that we could learn as the West about what it means to welcome others, what it means to make people feel at home, to go out of your way to care for even just those around you. I very much recognize, as a sort of Western white woman going into these spaces, there are certain privileges that are allowed to me that people perhaps from those cultures, and particularly women, aren't allowed. I'm acutely aware of that. But I've also just seen the most beautiful, beautiful displays of kindness and hospitality for one another, and what it truly means to be community. And I really think we've lost that a lot in the West. And so, that's definitely what I would try and say. And if you can visit, absolutely visit. Hit me up. Idea of hospitality and what it means to do life in community and to look out for one another is just absolutely beautiful. I think it's what life is about, and it doesn't get the airtime or screen time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you get snapshots, don't you, when occasionally you have like a big dinner with a whole bunch of people and there's that flow and everyone's contributing, but no one's like, it's just something unique that I feel like very rarely do we in the West get proper glimpses of. And that's very special. I like that. I like
And
that as a takeaway.
I would say as well, the one other key takeaway is, like, dancing makes it better. Like, every opportunity,
Yes.
every opportunity. I mean, particularly in the Levantine region, it's in between Jordan and Lebanon, the dabke, like, you just get any excuse to dance
Oh,
and I love it.
sign me up.
Yeah.
All right. I'm booking a flight. I've got one last question to throw at you, and of course it's got to be the classic. As you look back on your life now, what is the biggest note to self that sort of helped you along your journey so far, or maybe it's a brand new one that you're working through at the moment?
I think one of the biggest ones is dreams change. It's okay for dreams to change.
Mm. Oh, I
I
like
think,
it.
like well, like, what are your dreams? When you're younger, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? And you have these dreams and you have these even goals, And
Yeah,
I think they're great because they help form direction and they help
yeah,
give you, that sort of, this is my direction of travel. This is where I'm heading. But we also change. And so
yeah.
why wouldn't our dreams change? And why wouldn't our goals change at the same time? And
Mm,
so I think that's okay. Like I said before, I moved to London to be an actress, and I can remember just being like, this is all I want to do. I was once in Times Square in New York, and I was like, this is what I'm going to do. This is it. This is my life goal. La, la, la. Like, I've ended up so far from that, and that's okay. That's okay, and
yes.
it's all right to change. We change, and our passions change, and yeah, and so I think having grace for that, and just
Mm,
that flexibility as well. And yeah, I think just because it hasn't come true in the way that you thought it doesn't mean it's a failed dream, and it's okay for the
yes.
shift and had to have grace for that.
I feel like I want to slow clap here. That was really good. I really love that. Note to self, your dreams can change and it's okay. What a
Yeah.
what a beautiful way to wrap up our conversation, Abi Odat. I tell you what, you are all that and a bag of
Wow.
chips in my book.
Is that an Australian say?
Yeah, have you not heard that one? All that
No,
and a bag of chips?
no.
I'm
I
I'm
like it.
probably butchering it. Okay, well,
Yeah, yeah.
you
I'll
can
try
use
it
it
out
now.
here.
Anyway, thank you so much for joining me on Note to Self. I really appreciate all your insights and your stories. And yeah, thank you for giving up some of your time with me today.
Thank you for having me.